Rachel, welcome to Tread Talk. How's it going?
It's going good. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I saw that you guys had a big old earthquake out there today. Hope everything's okay there. You guys good?
We're good. You know, the funny part is I didn't feel it. And then I went to a coffee shop right down the street and they were talking like, oh my gosh, we're nauseous. It was so like shaky. And like, man, I kind of missed out. Okay.
Oh wow. No, I'm glad you guys are okay, and it doesn't seem like there's too much damage that happened. So
Nah, we're all good. Thank
good,
you.
good, good. Hey, so yeah, I just wanted to bring you on, talk a little bit about cars and racing and your acting career. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, so let's just kind of hop right in. How did you get into cars to begin with?
Okay, so I've loved cars since I was little. You know, like I was that kindergartner. You know how everybody, like when they're little, they're either into dinosaurs or cars or like something like that. And my thing was cars. And so I'd be like, oh, that's a Pontiac. Oh, that's a Chevy. You know, my parents are not into cars whatsoever. I was like this little dodo bird, like, where did you come from? But yeah, I think the first thing that honestly made me get into cars was I was in either first or second grade and my teacher's assistant had a brand new CRX. And I was just like, oh, this car is amazing. I want one someday. And it was all kind of like downhill from there.
That's awesome. That's kind of crazy that you got into cars without your family being into cars. I feel like everybody that's into cars, it's like, oh, dad worked on cars or dad
Yeah.
had a cool car.
Hmm.
So it's definitely interesting. Um, yeah, I'm following you on social media, watching your YouTube channel.
Oh,
Um,
thank
you have
you.
so many projects going on all
Oh,
the time.
too many. Yeah.
Yeah, can you just kind of give us a quick rundown of all the projects you're working on?
Okay, well, the main one right now is obviously the 92 Honda Civic Hatchback. That's kind of my track car. And before she used to be a little bit of a daily driver, now she's track only. And so that's
Nice.
what I do my drag racing, time attack, track events. That's her. And so that's the one I'm doing the K24, K20 swap in. But I also have like an FJ, I have an old Ford truck, I have a bunch of cars. And so I have that whiteboard on the wall of my warehouse, like, okay, check, check,
Yeah.
what's next? It's to keep me honest. Yeah.
Right, right, right. So of the bunch, what's your favorite project you're working on right now?
Oh gosh. Well, it definitely has to be the hatchback just because I'm so excited from where she's come to where she's going to be now. It's going to be epic once I finally get that turnkey video going.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it's you said you're making it just solely into a track car. Can you kind of give us a
Yes.
rundown of what you've done to it?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so she's basically had everything upgraded. Like I said, the motor. I came from a B18C1, so basically a GSR motor, and it was a awesome, awesome motor for that car, and it was fully cool. But then I was like, you know what? I really want to go into time attack. And then my friend Mike Kojima over at Moto IQ, they had already done a K24 K20 swap, kind of like a Frankenstein build, and so I kind of copied a lot of what they did to theirs. But, I'd go, Mike, I really need to get so and so suspension. What do you suggest? And he'd go, okay, why don't you get this ultra expensive one? I'm like, okay, now let's take it down about five steps. What do you recommend now? So I literally have a spreadsheet on that whole car because it's impossible to kind of memorize everything.
Right.
But, the head is from Drag Cartel, the short blocks from Four Piston. I've got a Prackworks Manny, which is absolutely gorgeous. She's fully tricked out. I wasn't expecting to spend so much on her, but it is what it is. If you want the car to run right, you got to do it right. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Just kind of peeking through your Instagram, does it have ITBs on the K24?
yes.
Oh, that's
Yes.
so awesome. I love the way it
Yes.
sounds. And
Oh, it's so cool.
for those that don't know that's listening, ITBs, individual throttle bodies. Each
Hmm.
each cylinder has its own throttle body.
Yeah.
It's pretty freaking sweet. um,
Thank you.
what kind of horsepower numbers are you hoping to make?
I'm hoping to get between 315 to 330.
Nice.
It's going to be a whole new car because I'm coming from the last time it was dynoed with the B18, it was about 174
Oh
horsepower.
wow.
And I was still kicking ass at the track.
Yeah,
She wasn't the
yeah.
fastest car, but it's fun to drive a slow car fast. And so this next season, I'm going to be driving a fast car, probably a little bit slower, just to
Right,
kind of get
right.
used to her. And then, yeah, and then I'll just kind of kick ass after that. I got to get used to her again.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it's gonna be what, almost 150 horsepower gain. I
Yes.
mean, my gosh. And I'm
Yes.
sure it's not a very heavy heavy vehicle either.
No, no,
Yeah.
I think she's slightly under 2,000 pounds, and then I'm fairly short and petite myself. And so it's so funny because these people never see me coming at the track anyway. And I had the last time I did Laguna, I had a couple of Porsche drivers come up to me after and go, "What do you have in that car?" And I would tell them, not meaning to hurt their feelings, but they'd be like, "Huh." Like you'd see the tears start. They're like, "We couldn't catch up to you." I'm
Right,
like,
right.
wait till next season.
That's so awesome. No, it's man, I'm so jealous. Like I've been wanting to buy just some kind of beater and just
Oh
throw
yeah.
an engine in it and just start racing. But the racing culture out here in Tennessee isn't really what it is in California.
Oh
Um,
no. Okay.
yeah, but could you kind of walk us through or give us kind of an idea of what the racing culture is like out there?
Oh, sure, sure. So it's actually gotten a lot better the last, I want to say almost 10 years or so. So I'm up in Northern California, so I'm about an hour north of San Francisco.
Okay,
SoCal is the still kind of the place to be if you're into racing and you're into cars. The culture there is freaking amazing. And so I constantly fly kind of back and forth to kind of hang out. But up here it is getting better. And so we have a lot of car shows, we have a lot of cars and coffee, track events. It barely rains here. We get maybe rain, I don't know, 2 months out of the year.
right.
And so I know it's like literally insane. And so our racing season pretty much goes from March to November. And I was totally bummed because I kind of missed everything last year since I've been working on the car all year.
Right.
But I'd say back in 2022, I was doing drag nights, Wednesday nights, probably about 20 to 30 a year. So that was a lot of fun. Track events, I try to go maybe once every couple of weeks because, it gets pricey and everything.
Right.
But here in Northern California, within a span of maybe 6.5 hours, you've got Sonoma Raceway, which is my home track. Absolutely love. We've got Laguna a couple hours away. We've got Thunder Hill. We've got Buttonwillow. We've got Streets of Willow. Willow Springs. And
Hmm.
so we're not hurting for track space. We're hurting for drag racing space now, which kind of sucks because Sonoma, it used to be like 40 to 45 nights a year, and last season was six,
Oh
which
wow.
is like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucks. But at the same time, it'll give me even more chance to kind of get better on the big tracks. But I
Yeah.
still love drag racing. That's what I cut my teeth on, but it is what it is.
Nice. I guess kind of piggybacking off of that, like, why do you think car culture in Southern California is such a big thing? Like, it just seems like that's the hub.
It is. It is. I think because the weather's always freaking beautiful,
Right.
They host Formula Drift down there. Well, Irwindale just closed from what I heard, but they used to have Formula Drift both at Long Beach and Irwindale.
Hmm.
And I was there in April for the Long Beach one. That was hella fun. It's just I don't know where it's. I think it's just because the weather's beautiful and everybody wants
Yeah.
to show off their rides. And again, it's true. Nobody walks in LA. Everybody wants to show off their cars.
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's starting to migrate up to NorCal, which I like. But
Hey, no, that's awesome. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, here during the winter, everybody puts their cars away because it gets so gross. So
yeah.
having a place to, pull them out year round must be nice.
Yeah, it totally is. I know. I feel bad for my Southern friends and, back in New York and all that because they're like, oh, because my daily driver is an S2000, and
Oh,
yesterday I had the top down because it was like almost 70 degrees. And
nice.
my one of my buddies is like, also daily drives or tries to an S2K. And he's like, yeah, it's snowing here. I'm not driving mine anymore. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
that's so
that S2K
sweet.
makes me so jealous. That's obviously one of the, dream cars, but
Oh,
they
yeah.
people found out about them and they're getting expensive again. So
Yeah. 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 It's now my retirement plan.
there you go. Kind of diving back into the racing world, do you do any like competitive racing, like professional type racing?
At the moment, it's not quite professional. I do want to get into professional racing. I'm hoping the car now is going to get me noticed.
Mm,
It's got me noticed the last couple years just because, when you first show up, they're like, oh, it's just this little influencer. Oh, she's so cute in her little car. But when I started to actually kind of kick butt on the track, it was like, oh no, she's serious. And
yeah.
so I'm hoping along the way. I mean, my ultimate dream would be like the Spoon Sports team from
Yeah, heck
Japan would be
yeah.
like, you're hired, I know it's a long shot, we'll see. But yeah, no, my hopes and dreams are definitely going towards professional racing.
Nice. Something you want to make it like a full-time career?
Oh, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, I would freaking love it. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. What would you say is like your favorite kind of racing? I know you do a lot of time attack, but in some drag
Mhm.
stuff, but what's your favorite?
Um, I think my favorite still right now is drag racing because I got to be pretty good at it. And it's like, people just think you're going in a straight line as fast as you can. And while that is part of it, there's also little tricks and, things you can do to kind of like further your career in it. And
Mhm.
so that's been a lot of fun. Uh yeah, it's still a toss up between that and just like track events, just trying to I've kind of gotten more into like timing my runs, and now
Mhm.
I can't wait to see what the new car does or the new motor does.
Right. Do you wait, so do you also drag the Civic?
Oh, I will. Yeah,
Oh, okay,
that's the main
nice.
car I dragged the last 5 years or so, and then I got to know like, oh, you get way more seat time when you're on the big track. So,
Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
that's cool. So it's kind of a like a little dual purpose. That's pretty awesome.
yeah, totally.
Nice. Um, what's I sent you this, but what's the sketchiest moment you've ever had on track?
Oh gosh. Okay. So as much as I love Sonoma Raceway, it's also the one that I'm scared of the most because
Yeah.
it's such a technical track. There's no runoff. Like cement, we're literally next to the cement wall most of
Right.
the time. And so I had this moment, what was it, turn 5 or 6, I believe. And I went just a little bit wide and I hit the berm and I felt my car kind of shimmy. And I'm a potty mouth. And so I was like, F, 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 and then I saved it, and I'm like, quiet again. I keep driving. It's kind of like that meme I posted where the guy, like, totally screws up on the road
Yeah.
and, like, stops for a second. He drove home with the music off. So that was, like, basically how I felt. And so, yeah. And so that's literally the only track I don't do full send just because you've got so much to lose. And I've seen people lose their cars.
Right.
So, yeah,
I
not
mean,
fun.
yeah,
Don't want
especially
to.
having like no runoff there. I've seen people cause so much damage to their cars, and
Oh,
it's just not worth it.
no, no, it's not. It's
Uh,
not. Yeah, I've seen everything from vintage Ferraris completely lose it to the last time I was on track, some guy took out his 2019 CTR into the wall, airbags, done. And I'm like,
oh
I don't want to make that call to my husband.
no,
Like, honey, remember
right.
that? Exactly. Like, remember that year we spent working on the hatchback? Yeah, it's gone.
Oh, and I can imagine too, like that at Sonoma gets pretty dusty, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
They keep it fairly clean. They literally just paved, which is good.
nice.
But yeah, it's not it's from the 60s. So
Right.
she's seen some stuff.
And a lot of blind corners, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It is a fun track once you get on it and once you get into the rhythm of it.
Hmm.
But I remember the first time I was like I was scared. I don't get scared. I get scared before or I get nervous.
Hmm.
And then once I'm on track, my mind clears and I'm just like in the moment, ready to go. But that first lap on that track, I was like, I'm gonna die, huh? This track is kind of nuts.
Yeah. No, that's just another thing, us down here in the South have to be jealous of with you guys is, cool, fun racetracks. We live in NASCAR land down here. So a lot of ovals and, the ovals have
Yeah.
little road courses in the middle of them, but it's not the same.
I hear it. I hear it. But I mean, if you guys have autocross, I mean, that's still a lot of fun, a lot of
True.
curves and stuff. But that's true because I went to I usually go down to like New Orleans
Yeah.
like once a year just because I absolutely love that place. And I got invited to, oh gosh, what's their name? It was a big Porsche race team and I feel terrible. I can't even think of their name right now. But they invited me to their warehouse at the NOLA track. And so it was so interesting to see like a flat racetrack because I don't
Mhm.
even think about this being in California. We have tracks with like, different elevations and
Right.
stuff. And so it doesn't occur to me that not everybody has that. So that was interesting.
Yeah, it's
NOLA's
definitely a
for,
different world.
yeah.
Hey,
Oh, it
but
totally is.
and here, it's like I said, it's all about the ovals and a lot of dirt track racing as well. And so
Yes.
which is
Yes.
cool, but it's not you don't have people in their supercars out ripping
No,
track
gosh.
days
Yeah,
most of
no.
the time. So shifting just a little bit, obviously you are a woman that races.
Mhm.
How do you ever get like some shitty guys walking up to you, like just kind of being douches?
You know what's what's funny is, okay, when I first started doing drag racing, I was actually welcomed with open arms. It was really,
Nice.
really sweet. I have this group of guys, they're all kind of older and stuff, and they really took me under their wing. But I still, once in a while, get paired up with someone who doesn't know me, doesn't know my history, and they'll like rev the hell out of their car. And they're looking over at me like, rev. And I just kind of look at him like, and then inside I'm like, if you don't beat this loser,
Yeah.
like you're giving up. You're giving up. And so luckily, every single time that it's only happened maybe like 3 or 4 times where I get this complete, you know, just jackass of a guy next to me. And I've managed to beat him every single time. And then they're like, they go home.
Yeah, they shut up real quick.
Exactly. Track events, not too much, not too much. I'm kind of a social butterfly, and I'll go up to someone and go, "Man, your car is so rad. Tell me about it." And that kind of instantly gets you into that, "Oh, okay, she kind of knows her stuff, you know?"
Right,
And
right,
then they see my car and I lift the hood and it's like, "Oh, dang. Okay, yeah, she's not here just to kind of pose against the car. She's here to race." And
right.
so I don't think I've ever actually yeah, I've never gotten any comments on big track days. It's just pretty much been like drag racing. So, and again, it's few and far between. And even on my YouTube channel, I'm really surprised. I think in the 5 or 6 years that I've had it now, I've only had maybe 5 comments where it was like completely, misogynistic, like, what are you
Right.
doing? Get in the kitchen. And I just delete it,
Of
because it's
course,
like,
right.
they're pissed they're not maybe at the same level, or they're pissed because they want to do what we're doing out here and maybe they can't, or I don't know, I'm not a psychiatrist, but yeah, I mean, it's part of the gig, but yeah,
It is what it is. No, it's
it
really
is what
cool
it
though
is.
that like yeah, you don't have to deal with a lot of that because
Yeah.
again, I've seen it happen to other people and it's
Hmm.
it's just not cool.
Yeah.
But with that kind of with all that being said, why don't you think more women get into racing in cars?
I think either one, they're a little bit timid about doing it because they don't know how people are going to react. When I'm at the track, I'm usually either the only woman or maybe one of a handful.
Mhm.
And I always definitely go over and make sure to introduce myself, say, hey, if you need anything, let me know. I always have tools. Um, Honestly, or maybe they're just not interested. Maybe it's not their thing. Maybe they see their husband doing it, or they think it's not something they're going to be able to start on their own.
Mhm.
And so that's also kind of the reason why I started my YouTube channel, is because I wanted more women out there to be able to get their hands dirty and not be scared to like lift their hood and do an oil change or change their own tire, that kind of thing. So they're coming up. There's a little bit more women now than there used to be, especially in I want to say F1, like that school.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
love, oh my gosh, it's so cool. Like 20 years ago, I would have been begging my parents to like send me to F1 school, send me to F1 school.
Yeah,
But
I mean, the I think I just saw the F1 school champion this year was God, what was she, 17, 17-year-old girl,
yes, they're
which
so
is
young. Oh,
awesome.
it is. It is. Because
So,
you're fearless at that age. You don't
right.
think about potentially dying or like hurting yourself. And so it's just like full send, let's go.
Right, right. No, and it's cool. Like I really do love seeing more women get into racing. I know, gosh, I can't remember her name, but there's a female driver for Toyota who's coming into the NASCAR Truck Series next year.
Oh, sick.
And it's like you're starting to see more of it, and I feel like people like Danica Patrick kind of really started that
Hmm.
trend. Maybe not really, but just
Yeah,
inspired more girls and more women to get into the sport.
definitely.
And
Definitely.
I just love to see it. I think it
Hmm.
should be for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a pretty cool hobby. It can get expensive, but
Yeah,
hey, if you're willing to put in the time, money, and the payoff can be huge. Even like winning in something, like bringing home a trophy from drag night, like that's super cool,
yeah,
you know?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So you're off. Sorry, excuse me. You're also an actress.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit. What you've been in, what you've done.
Sure, sure. Okay, so I started acting. I'd always wanted to be an actor. It was like two things I wanted to do in life was be a race car driver and act. And so I started acting in 2017. I started off on the third season of 13 Reasons Why. So that was
Okay.
kind of a Netflix show. Yeah, it filmed on a place called Mare Island, which was kind of an hour away. And it was an awesome, awesome show. The show itself is pretty depressing. Like, don't watch the whole thing at once because,
Right.
but it was such a great acting experience, like a first time acting, because a lot of us had never been on set before and they gave out folders of information like, this is how you should dress, this is how you should, behave on set. And it was just the best crash course while getting paid for it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did 2 seasons of that. I did, let's see, the second Venom. I did Matrix 4. And this is all kind of like background acting. And so I've done probably about, gosh, I want to say 20 to 25 TV shows, movies, that kind of thing. I've done a bunch of commercials. My very favorite commercial that I did one for Northern California Honda dealers, and I actually got to use my Civic for it.
Nice.
And so that was sick. That was like the ultimate bucket. Like, I can quit now. This is super cool.
That's cool. Do you have a particular dream role that you would love to have one day?
I would absolutely love to be on some sort of show to do with cars.
Yeah.
Maybe like a Mike Musto show, like House of Muscle, but like imports, and just, I would honestly, that would be my dream role. Yeah,
You should just start it yourself. Start your own show.
I should. I should. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I mean, look, they're never lacking in looking for shows, I can assume. So like, just
Yeah.
film a few episodes, pitch it, see what happens.
I totally should. I know. I should do it like about the build of the Hatchie.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
should have been
absolutely.
like, yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Shoot,
I'm
I'd
gonna
watch
do
it. And there's definitely a hole in the market for import stuff. You on
Oh
TV,
yeah.
you've got like the American Muscle stuff and the,
Hmm.
shoppers and all that, but there's no
Yeah.
there's no import stuff.
I know. I know. Actually, yeah, when you think about it, there really, really isn't. Maybe it's like an off episode here and there, but
Right, right.
that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey, there's a hole in the market. That's all I'm saying. um, so kind of staying on that a little bit, but I see a lot more actors starting to get into cars and racing.
Yes.
Frankie Muniz is now in NASCAR, which is crazy,
Hmm.
growing up as a kid watching him.
Oh, I know. Crazy.
But like, why do you think a lot of actors and actresses are getting into racing?
I think it's probably something they'd always been curious about and maybe just didn't have the time, money, or energy to do it before. But it's like if someone from Toyota hands you a car and says, "Hey, would you like to race?" It's kind of a no-brainer because I know Keanu Reeves just recently raced
Yeah,
as well,
yeah.
which was super cool. And I remember back in the day, Toyota's always been pretty friendly with like giving actors. Because I remember Cameron Diaz raced. I think if she doesn't, she should. Charlize Theron, because
Hmm.
she's freaking good from what I've heard. And obviously Patrick Dempsey, races. So yeah, I think it might go hand in hand. Yeah, I think they just maybe get a little bit curious and again, if someone hands them a car, okay, let's give it a try.
Yeah. Do you think
So,
it's anything to do with like the adrenaline rush that comes from it?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Kind of gives
Yeah.
you the same feeling as when you're on set, maybe.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I just started to notice that trend, and I was like, what? I don't really understand, but maybe I kind of understand. I don't know. It's cool, but
Yeah.
how do you balance like the life, the work-life balance of being an actress and having the nights at the track?
Once in a while it works out. Sometimes, you got to choose one or the other. Right now, the acting thing is a little bit slow just
Hmm.
because, we've had so many strikes. And so this year, it's actually been kind of nice to concentrate more on the cars. When more projects come along next year, obviously, I'm going to be submitting my little heart out.
Right.
But I think because I love each equally, that if I have to sacrifice a night of racing for like a overnight of acting, I'm not going to be mad about it,
Right.
because they're both my babies.
Right.
So
Right. No, that's awesome. You mentioned your husband. He's also into cars as well, correct?
he is. He is.
Oh,
He is.
that's
He
cool.
doesn't
That's so
race or
awesome.
anything like that. Yeah. Well, he's most of the he had blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he's basically been my mentor. And so he grew up working on cars. And when I first met him, he had a 1967 Mustang Fastback, which he still
Ooh,
has. I know, we had our first date in it. And so
nice.
he was taking apart the carburetor, and he's like, "You know what? Why don't you go ahead and rebuild this? See if you can do it." And I did. And he's like, okay, we're going to start getting you a couple of projects, blah, blah, blah. And my first car was an import and he was a domestic guy. But I ended up kind of changing his mind when it came to imports because he was like, oh, that import crap, you know? And I smoked that fastback in my first car, which was a 1990 Integra RS base model.
Oh,
But it
nice.
was so little and so light. And we were coming up the on ramp and he's just like, where the heck did you come from? That is insane. And so it kind of opened up his eyes like, okay, maybe I should check those imports out.
Nice.
So, and they're so easy to work on too.
Right, exactly, exactly. Now you
Hmm.
just brought it up, your first car. Did you modify the Integra at all, or did you
Oh,
leave it pretty
of
stock? Of
course.
course, of course.
Back then, let's see, I did rims, I did the AEM air intake that everybody was doing, I did exhaust. Oh my gosh. So the exhaust, there wasn't a whole lot available for the car back then, you
Right.
know? And so I actually had a Flowmaster on it, which was ridiculous. You could hear me coming 3 miles away. I still cannot believe I didn't get a ticket for it,
Right.
like ever. But, you know, it was just one of those things. And so, and of course, tint and, you know, Momo shift knob. And so it was just kind of like the bare basics, but it looked cool. Like back then, it was like, okay, that's kind of cool, you know, slammed and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Nice,
hmm
nice. I'm gonna have to see. Do you have any pictures of that? I'm gonna see. I have
oh
to
my
see if you
gosh,
can
I
send them to
have
me.
literally two Polaroids pictures, if
Nice.
you can believe it, because it was before cell phone
That's
cameras.
awesome. That's awesome.
So I'll send them to you.
That's another potential bucket list car as an Integra, but
Oh yeah,
we'll see. You
they're
know,
great.
I don't claim to be a Honda boy, but I'm kind of a Honda boy.
Yeah. They're just so cool. I
They are.
love like the 90s and early 2000s of those cars. They got them so right. And they last
Right.
forever. Like I have 160,000 miles on my S2K and she still drives like she's brand
Yeah.
new.
Right,
So,
right. And there's so much
yeah.
aftermarket support for them now too. It's like
Oh,
you can't
yes.
go wrong.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, nice, nice. So what are your plans for the future? Any new projects coming up?
I think we're gonna work on the fastback next because it kind of sat for a while and deteriorated a little bit. She's running, but she's not exactly drivable. You know, we wouldn't be comfortable like taking her anywhere. And so I think that's gonna be the next step is like after all this import stuff, let's go ahead, let's concentrate on the fastback and then probably the truck as well. Because it's like when you're concentrating on one car the entire year, the rest of the fleet seems to it doesn't really get too much love. And
Right.
they just kind of like look at you and start crying and dripping oil and all that. So it's time to pay attention to the rest of the crew.
For sure, for sure. Sorry, you brought up the truck. What make and model is
Oh,
that truck as well? I totally meant to
oh,
ask you about that.
you would freaking love it. Okay. So it's a 1969 Ford F-250 Camper Special
Oh,
that my grandpa actually bought brand new in 1969.
wow.
And it's lunar green. It's still all original. The paint's all original. We usually take it to Peggy Sue Car Show every year, and every year everybody goes crazy over it. When we first got it, it only had 15,000 miles on it. And that was about 10
Wow.
years ago. So now she has, I want to say about 23,000 miles and which is awesome. But there's stuff that has to be maintained now because she
Right.
wasn't German the whole time. But what cracks me up, she was bought for my grandma who was huge into like rummage and rotary sales and all that kind of stuff. She apparently never wore her seatbelt because when we got the truck, the plastic was still on the seatbelt. I'm like, I got so mad at her. I'm like, Grandma, what were you thinking? She's like, it was the 60s. Who cares?
Shoot, back then they just drink and drive and not even worry about
Pretty
it.
much. Pretty
Safety is
much.
optional.
Totally. But it's so funny because when we first got it, and even now, the truck still drives like it's brand new. She's barely got any miles on
Yeah,
her.
right, right.
Yeah. And it's unfortunately, I'm kind of afraid to drive her all that much on the roads just because people drive so crazy and they don't care. And I would die. That's the one car I would die if anything happened to it, just
Yeah.
because it's a family truck. So yeah, like I said, she comes out once or twice a year for a couple of shows and then we put her back in her warehouse.
That's so cool. Like that's awesome. I'm another dream of mine is late 60s, early 70s
So cool.
Ford what is it, the F100 in
Yes.
baby blue. Oh,
Oh my
I
gosh.
love it.
Yes, they're so rad. Oh my gosh. Well, my husband has been wanting a 1956
Mm,
for so long. For
mhm.
so long. Ford F1 F100 truck.
Yeah.
Candy apple red, all that.
Oh,
And So he's still searching, but I'm like, babe, we have so many freaking projects.
Right. Hey,
Like, at least make sure it's drivable.
what's one more?
Yeah, that's right.
Listen, if my wife would let me, I'd probably have about as many as you, but I don't have
It's
the space.
dangerous. I hear that.
So awesome. Hey, well, yeah, short and sweet. Just wanted to, get to know you a little bit and chat cars
Totally.
and racing and your career. Where can everybody find you on social media?
Okay, so on Instagram, my name is Rachel's Rachel S underscore spoon EG6.
Sweet.
And
And
then I have on YouTube, well, actually, if you go to my bio on Instagram on the link tree, everything is listed below. So I'm on TikTok, Gearhead Chick, obviously YouTube, R&D Garage, and I think that's it. Yeah.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody
Thank
go give
you.
her a follow. She's putting out some great content. It's entertaining, it's educational. So, especially the ladies out there, if you want to get into cars, follow
Absolutely.
Rachel.
Thank you so
So,
much.
awesome. Rachel, thanks for coming on. Seriously, it was a great time.
Oh, you're so welcome. I had a blast.
Awesome. Have a good one.
You too.
All right. See ya.
Bye.